went in on the 4th of, or 6th of August in '44 in Normandy, Utah Beach. Made the breakout about 10 days later, and then that fantastic trip in about 20 minutes across France, within 10 days, I think, across France. We were in the Moselle Valley in eastern France. Patton's 3rd. And the 80th Division was in it sounds like English, Saint-Mihiel, Saint-Mihiel, on September 2nd in 1918. We were back there on September 2nd, 1944. And I thought, boy, this history does repeat itself. And I pointed that out to my students. It's also a lesson that battles get fought in the same place for the same reasons. River crossings, towns, cliffs, mostly crossings and crossroads. I saw literally thousands of concentration camp victims, but only one camp. Most veterans my age seem to think they were in every bloody camp there was. Frankly, I doubt it. We was right by Buchenwald, and I know exactly when because it was my 20th birthday. And 4 miles away, about 6 or 7 Ks, is the city of Weimar, the old capital in 1919 to 1933 or 34 when Hitler took over. Weimar, and it's also the home of the great German poets. 3 or 4 of them lived there. We took that town on April 12th. I'm the last survivor, as long as you're writing this, of the patrol which accepted the surrender of Weimar to our regimental colonel. And it's easy to document some of the stuff that I've got for you. It made the front page of the New York Times because it was Weimar. And you know the Army, I figure the colonel went on that patrol because he knew he'd be on the front page of the New York Times. So taking it was a bright idea on the part of our colonel. And we just drove in. We went as a combat patrol. There were colonel's Jeep and I think 4 Jeeps with machine guns on them, and riflemen like myself. Not at all. People were waiting in the town square. The Air Force had blown the devil out of, what was it? They had a shopping list of every big town in Germany and they'd exhausted it. They were going to the little towns by April of '45. They had literally bombed out all those big towns like Bonn and so on in the Rhine Valley, Berlin, of course. It's as though you were to go into a city, and from here to that construction crane on the other side of the valley, there's nothing but ruins, nothing. They bombed and bombed again. So they had nothing to do, literally, in the way of heavy bombing raids by April. They had some more, but they didn't need to. So all we had to do was the colonel would call up the Air Force and say, would you please destroy such and such a village? Well, not with that reception, no. Actually, they were terrified of us. The Nazi propaganda machine had insisted that all of these guys are Chicago gangsters. And I can illustrate this. I not only carried a rifle, but because we had this anti-tank gun, we had a big truck, a 3/4-ton truck or something, to haul our gear around it. So I was running special combat patrols and so on, working on them out of regimental headquarters. And on some of them I wanted a Thompson sub. So I acquired a Thompson submachine gun. I had an M1 rifle. I was also the wire guy if we needed to wire the gun into any place. I was hiking down a road in Germany someplace, and I heard somebody say, Chicago. They'd seen all those 1930s movies that we remember. But I forget who it was, but there were a bunch of crime movies in the middle of the 1930s, and they all dealt with Chicago and New Jersey crime. And I always said, Chicago. I was up in that mine when the war ended, and we were sent down to garrison duty, mostly around Munich. A couple of other places, but Bavarian area. And then it came time to go home in the summer of 1945, And nobody thought they were ever going to go home. Nobody with my experience in the war thought they were ever going to survive it. And then came the glorious Nagasaki bomb. This article in the recent Seattle Times about the paper always excites my ire. I think I used up all my chances by May 7th of May 845. I'm never going to make it through Japan. I've always treasured the description of potential landing beach for some Marine who wrote about this. Somebody I met eventually when I was lecturing in the Marine Academy. He said, our landing was, when machine guns have coverage called the beaten zone. And they can set a machine gun so that it'll fire this far, and give them 600 yards out with bullets will be this far off the ground. He said, my landing zone had so many 100 yards of absolute beaten zone. He knew he had made it through, Guadalcanal or something. He was never going to make it through Japan. So we had the same idea about, we don't care what you think about the A-bomb, we think it's great. The civilizing advance. And that's the way I felt. So it was a new world after the 9th of August, 44. It was great. I went over on the fastest ship in the world in the Atlantic, that's Queen Mary, and I came back on the USS, what was she? Aircraft carrier anyway, and she held the Atlantic crossing record. Yeah, and so got to see this aircraft. I got to see the Mary, which was a thing in itself. Then I got to see this aircraft carrier, and they cleared out all the planes, and they put in 4 high bunks in all those big flight carrier or plane holder decks down below there. And the Navy fed us well. And this thing was so big, we crossed straight in the North Atlantic in January of 45, 46 it would have been, January 46. And one of the worst storms that they'd had in years, but this carrier didn't care. She just sailed right through it. So we'd go up and stand in the gun tubs, which is perfectly safe, and watch these big waves, 50-foot waves. Go downstairs, and they did their best to feed us good chow and show movies. Guys all played cards. Yeah, and that was a thrill because you came by the Statue of Liberty.